Hey everyone, it's Blake, and welcome in to episode number 25 of our WWE 2021 save in TEW 2020. This is SmackDown, the first week of August in 2021. Of course, this is the fallout from our Great American Bash pay-per-view. I guess last week now. We would have released that. Sorry, I'm a little behind on releasing on my usual schedule due to some work stuff and all that. But we are into week one in August for SmackDown, which this is the episode where we find out what exactly is going to be the fallout from our big closing angle to Great American Bash. I would highly go back and check that out if you haven't. Let's say this is your first video in the series. You don't even have to go back to the beginning. Just go watch Great American Bash because that will give you a pretty good idea of what you're going to see on this show, which hopefully could end up producing one of our biggest angles in the save thus far from a rating standpoint. We'll see how it turns out, but that's the hope. We'll get to that in a minute, though. Let's start here with the pre-show, as we do start off with Dio Madden and Humberto Carrillo. It is Dio Madden getting the win. 5 minutes, gets a 35 overall. I think that's actually Dio Madden's first win in our series. We've had him lose a lot of matches. Just as someone who really has worked decent, I think, with some of the people. I mean, Humberto's the same situation. They're both okay in terms of like their overall skills and such, but just not a whole lot to do with either one of them right now. But it is Dio Madden earning his first victory in our series here on the pre-show. In our second pre-show match, it is Sonya Deville getting the win over Dana Brooke in around 4 minutes. 36 overall here. Sonya continuing to benefit from the groundswell of public support. Of course, we've seen her just be dominant since she returned. I guess that's been about a month now. She's won all of her matches in a pretty dominant fashion, and we do have some plans for her really in the immediate future, but we didn't necessarily have anything for her on this particular show. But I think next week you'll start to see, on the next edition of SmackDown, you'll start to see what direction we're going to be going in with Sonya Deville. But for now, she gets the victory on the pre-show, and that leads us into the main show, which will start off with an angle based on the fallout from Great American Bash. And that is Mick Foley. We get a pre-SmackDown video, so we get a little footage of what happened right before SmackDown went on the air. Pat McAfee catches up to Mick Foley. McAfee wants to know what's next for Roman Reigns and WWE after Reigns' vicious attack on Vince McMahon at the end of Great American Bash. Foley says he wished he could answer the question, but Mr. McMahon should have never been in that position. Of course, Reigns was the one that had called out Foley, but it was Vince who came strutting down, wanting the challenge. Didn't exactly turn out too well. And Foley says he's been on the phone all day trying to figure out solutions, and if Reigns wants to talk about consequences, if he shows up tonight, he'll have his own consequences to deal with. So a little bit of foreshadowing there for what's to come, but a nice start to the show. And as you'll see, this is sort of gonna be two show-long angles essentially that are gonna kind of tie in together here once we get to the end of the show. But nice start here. 71 will take it. I think this SmackDown's actually going to do really well from a rating standpoint. I think this will probably be one of our strongest editions of SmackDown thus far. I'd be surprised if it's not, but off to a good start here. And we get a match here. This is actually a SmackDown Money in the Bank qualifier. As it gets a 61 overall, it is Damian Priest qualifying for the SmackDown Money in the Bank match at SummerSlam. Gets the win in 10 minutes over Elias. Decent little match here. Like I said, 61, we'll take it. Not too bad. Certainly better than some of the stuff we've seen between Damian Priest and Baron Corbin. My goodness, I'm just glad to get that feud over with. That one is one that I promise you will probably never revisit unless they both become 100 overall in popularity. And let me just tell you, I don't see that happening. But we do know that Damian Priest is now going to be in the SmackDown Money in the Bank match at SummerSlam as he defeats Elias here. So add another one to the mix as he is now the second person to qualify. We'll get to the other person here in a minute. And we get a promo here with Mick Foley in his office on the phone. Apollo Crews comes strutting in with the Intercontinental title. Foley uninterested because obviously he has a lot going on dealing with Roman Reigns. And that Crews says, no big deal. He doesn't have to come back. He just wanted Foley to know that next week he's going to have a celebration festival in the ring to celebrate yet another successful title defense. And that he is inviting Mick Foley to this big festival. So our champion Apollo Crews more and more cocky now after successfully defending the title against Shinsuke Nakamura, the IC title there at Great American Bash. So he will have a celebration festival next week. So we'll see how that turns out for our champion Apollo Crews. And then we get a match here between Natalya and Eva Marie. It is Natalya getting the win. Around 8 minutes, uses the sharpshooter, 47, not great, but this will serve a purpose. It doesn't necessarily serve a purpose on this show. You probably won't know exactly why we did this match because it kind of feels like a random match, but it will make more sense, I think, probably starting with next week's episode of SmackDown. There is a point to this, but for now, it's just Natalya getting a win over Eva Marie. Eva Marie off her game here, so not great there. But a 47, I don't think it's going to drag the show down too much because I do think we got a lot of things on the way here that are going to raise the profile and the overall rating of the show to a greater degree. So no big deal on this, but it is Natalya getting the win. And then we're back to Mick Foley's office again, as it is Mustafa Ali going in and Foley still on the phone. Foley getting pissed off at this point. He just slams the phone down, tells Ali to knock next time. He's tired of people walking into his office, and that Ali basically mocks him and said that his control of his open door policy is about the same as his current control of SmackDown. And basically, Ali is not happy that Foley let Cesaro from Raw come to Great American Bash and attack him. And then he wants to know why is Roman Reigns attacking his boss, and that Ali just tells him, hey, it's time for you to get some control around here before leaving. So Mick Foley just has got the Cruz coming in. He's got Ali coming in. Everybody just wants a piece of Mick Foley's attention after pretty much all hell broke loose at Great American Bash. So that's kind of the running theme we have now on SmackDown, that it's just chaos everywhere. And as you'll see, there is more to come. So 62 here advances a couple different storylines here, and we will see what's next, which is a terrific promo from Seth Rollins. Seth backstage, smile on his face. He has now earned the shot at the SmackDown Money in the Bank briefcase by defeating Kofi Kingston at Great American Bash in that qualifying match. And now he knows what he needs to do to become the next Universal Champion. And after his lowly tag team match tonight, which will feature him teaming with Baron Corbin to take on the New Day, Rollins is going to sit back and watch his competition, no matter who it is. None of them will be any match for the next Mr. Money in the Bank, and that is, of course, Seth freaking Rollins. So Rollins always delivers on the promos. He does it again here. Terrific rating, and we just keep marching right along with Seth delivering just some great angles. He's very over, probably one of our most over people in the company at this point. So good stuff here from Seth Rollins. And that leads us into a really good match, 75 overall. It is actually the New Day getting the win over Seth Rollins and Baron Corbin. Kofi Kingston getting the pin on Baron Corbin. So that is noteworthy there as just a really, really solid match, 75. But again, I'm telling you, that goes back to Rollins. Like, Rollins has been that good, and most of the stuff he's been in is usually, in that 70 or over range just because of his popularity and such. And of course, we talked about the product in WWE, a lot of popularity, over just the actual performance. So that really helps when you have someone like Rollins in here. Corbin, not that over. We talked about the New Day. They're kind of in that middle tier range now. They're not that over, but they're okay. But Rollins is head and shoulders above everyone else, which we can see here with the in-ring performance. And Corbin was off here too. So this is a good match. I mean, really, this is good. And of course, it advances the SmackDown Money in the Bank storyline because you do have one person in here that's in the match as of now. So good win for the New Day, though, and that will lead us into a post-match angle here, which is the New Day walking backstage after their victory. The Usos sitting in the corner, and they taunt them about their win meaning absolutely nothing because they're not the champions. Jay says that they defended the title successfully on back-to-back nights. Of course, they beat the Viking Raiders at Great American Bash. They had to turn right around, and then they beat the Street Profits on Raw. And that they're simply better than the New Day, always have been. That leads to Kingston and Woods pretty much losing it, and we get a pull-apart brawl between these two teams. So you can probably already have a pretty good idea of where that's headed, as it is SmackDown that gets the next undisputed tag team title shots because the Usos have now defended against SmackDown and Raw successfully, so it's back to SmackDown. A 63 here, not bad, but this kind of, again, furthers what direction we're heading in. And this will not be the last you see of the Usos on this particular show. But for now, they sit backstage alone by themselves because no Roman Reigns at this point. So an interesting angle here, and it's going to further, again, I know of what seems like probably a pretty predictable direction as we head towards our next tag team title match for the Undisputed Tag Titles. And then we get a great rating here. I told you I felt pretty good about this one. This show, we've got some pretty big angles mapped across the board. Bianca Belair comes out. She's got a determined look on her face. She wants Charlotte Flair to return what is rightfully hers. Spoiler alert if you didn't watch Great American Bash. Charlotte Flair stole the title away from Bianca Belair after her successful defense against Asuka. And Bianca says there's only one rightful champion, and that's her, Charlotte. We get her music, but she's sitting in a room on the screen, so she's not actually at the venue. And she tells Bianca to be patient, and that while she may think she's the real SmackDown Women's Champion, everyone knows the only reason she has the belt is because she hasn't beaten her yet. So if she wants to get it back, she'll have to do just that to get it. So that is really continued a feud we've had going now since pretty much the start of our series, but now it's Charlotte who could not get the actual title shot, and so what does she do? She just steals the belt. And that is kind of our setup here as we're going to move forward with this one. So I really like what this has done. I mean, this has been a really good storyline. It's worked well, even with Charlotte not having a lot of momentum. It's really still turned out okay from a storyline standpoint. So I have high expectations for this one, and it delivers here with a nice rating. So, and that leads us into another good match here, a 74. Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal. I don't remember. I mean, it's been probably, I don't know, was that last month or maybe the month before? We had that match between Drew and Jinder, and it did a really good rating. I want to say it was probably around the same range. So I was like, we got to go back to this again at some point. This was probably the best place to do it based on what's to come. But it is Drew McIntyre getting the win in around 14 minutes with the Claymore, getting the win 74 over Jinder. But this is going to lead to what's next in this, which is... Wow, another great segment here. After the match, the referee raises Drew McIntyre's hand. All of a sudden, the lights go out. We hear Bray Wyatt laughing just as he did after Drew McIntyre attacked him at Great American Bash. So you remember they had it wasn't a match, but they met in the ring. McIntyre just started destroying Wyatt, who just basically let his hands down. He didn't even try to fight back, and McIntyre just beat him down. And then all Bray Wyatt did was just laugh at him, and the lights went out. Bray was gone. Then this time, lights go out, laughing, back on. We see Bray Wyatt's empty rocking chair in the aisle. So more mind games from Bray Wyatt, the master at this. And no, if you're just watching the series, I have not released him. I have no plans to release him. So we've got big stuff in store for Bray Wyatt. So you don't have to worry about any releases here on this. So I really, again, this storyline too has delivered thus far with all the ratings we've had really with these two. This is easily the best rating thus far. I think this is better than the one we had at Great American Bash. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the first one we've had reach this level. So great stuff. Like SmackDown, really good show here. These are great so far. Let's hope this continues. And that leads us into what's actually going to be our main event on the show. And you're going to wonder, why is this one in the main event versus some of the others? It'll make sense in a second. 63 overall as R-Truth makes his return. So you remember, King of the Ring, it was Roman Reigns. That's when he first sort of snapped. He beats down R-Truth, and R-Truth has not been seen since, but R-Truth makes his valiant return here in a Money in the Bank qualifier. So it's Sami Zayn getting the win over R-Truth, 10 minutes, 17 seconds, hits the Luva kick. So Sami Zayn is now in the SmackDown Money in the Bank match at SummerSlam, along with Damian Priest and Seth Rollins. Yes, so it is Sami Zayn advancing. R-Truth is back. And that is now going to lead us into a couple angles to close the show, which I'm hoping for big things out of with this. So let's see if that's what we get. And it starts with Roman Reigns coming out. He comes through the crowd. Of course, he's not coming through the back because, probably a lot of enemies back there. He steps in the ring, holds his hands open without saying a word, as if to signal that he's ready for Foley's consequences that he mentioned earlier. However, we then see the Usos come down the same path through the crowd, and they are dragging Shane McMahon with them. So we have not seen Shane McMahon in this save at all. But after Roman attacks Vince, rather than sitting back and waiting, it seems that Roman went out and went straight to the person he expected to come after him, and that was Shane, Vince's son. So Jimmy and Jay place Shane in the ring. Shane is out. He's out of it. He tries to crawl up. He grabs Roman by the leg. Roman then delivers an evil smile and picks Shane up before 99. Incredible. So John Cena's music hits. Cena comes running down the ramp, slides into the ring. He knocks the Usos off the apron. Then he charges at Reigns. Cena with a round of punches to Reigns before Jay grabs the Universal Champion by the leg, pulls him outside. Reigns and the Usos retreat through the crowd as Cena is shaking in anger. So a 99, almost a perfect segment. I said it earlier, I thought this could be the best one we've had this far, although we remember Roman's put up a couple hundred spots at this point. But a 99, we will take that. So a lot happened here, right? Like we had Shane McMahon make his first appearance in the save. Now we've got John Cena making his first appearance in the save in back-to-back segments. But I like where this is going, and I know what you're thinking. We look at this here. Roman Reigns wants him. Storyline is automatically advanced with this segment. Is John Cena him? Well, we'll have to wait to find out down the road, because this is going to set up, I think, what will ultimately be the biggest angle we've done thus far. I mean, you could argue this was actually it probably in our save, I would say. This is the biggest angle we've had just from, putting Cena and Reigns together. But there's more to come, and I think that this is going to be a setup here that's very important to keep in mind as we go along on this. But I know what you're thinking too. Like, yes, WWE in real life is doing Reigns versus Cena at SummerSlam. You can probably guess where this is going to lead to, but it's a little more complicated than that, and I think I'm probably going to do it in a little bit different of a way than I would anticipate WWE doing. I guess we'll see, because I don't know if we're going to get to SummerSlam on our save before WWE does SummerSlam, so hopefully I don't steal any of my ideas, but I don't think that's happening. But still, we are going to head to something pretty big with Roman Reigns and John Cena, and the reason why Cena has been unavailable in the save until after Great American Bash, so he was officially available to return after, basically Monday, week 1, August. So that's why we brought him back here. We couldn't use him any earlier. He was away filming. That was the reason why, he was unavailable. So we couldn't use him. So this has kind of been set up from the beginning to bring him back at this spot on the first SmackDown after Great American Bash. We had that kind of placed from the very start of the save. So it worked out pretty well. And again, I think it's going to work out in the long term where we're actually headed with this. So really good stuff. 99, I can't complain. I think this show is going to do a great rating, and a 79. So it does. Probably would have thought it'd be a little bit higher, but probably got dragged down a little bit by, I would guess, just, some of these matches weren't great either. And we had a couple things that dragged it down. And like I said, I probably could have rearranged it a bit and maybe did it, I had a better main event too. Like, it's just, there's a lot of different things you could point to, but we're not going to complain about a 79, because remember, the last SmackDown we had was terrible. So it was it a 64, I think, on the go-home show for Great American Bash. So we're not going to complain too much. But there you go. There is SmackDown, and just a lot happening, as you could tell. We advanced several big storylines. Of course, the biggest of all is John Cena returning to essentially save the day for Shane McMahon, and after everything that went down with Vince. So we'll see what's next, but good show, and let's see what we need to get to before we wrap up this episode. All right, so just a couple things to look at here. Of course, SmackDown, excellent, really struck gold. Yes, we absolutely did. Big show for us. We've got a couple things to get to real quick. Ron Killings has changed from tone to average, so I guess R-Truth has decided he's coming back, and if he's just going to get beat down by Roman Reigns, he doesn't care. He's just going to let himself go. So that's fine. We're still going to use R-Truth. Very valuable member of the roster. Hikaru Shida, we had her on our short list, so she's now classified as a regular wrestler, so I don't think that we'll get Shida anytime soon. I suppose we could try, but she's still under an exclusive contract with AEW, and as we know, Vince doesn't want us, basically, even if she wasn't under contract, he doesn't want us stealing anyone from the medium or higher company. So that's been a pet peeve of mine, I'd say, thus far. We may get to a point where I'm just like, forget the owner goals. I think it may actually add more interest if I was able to get some of these people from these medium companies or higher. But you guys can decide and let me know what you think on that. I don't want to disrespect the integrity of the game by turning off the owner goals, but at the end of the day, like, I'm playing it as WWE, and it's like, I mean, the goals are really, it's not like I'm trying to eclipse anyone else. Like, I am the premier company. So I may actually do that in the future. we'll see. I think it would make for maybe a more interesting save from a story standpoint with some of the options we could run with. Because again, there are people's contract that have already come up from AEW that I haven't even touched because of that owner goal. But now that I think back, I'm like, it could make for a more interesting save. It could be different. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But that's that. Drug fees. Luckily, no Jinder Mahal issues this time around. SmackDown gets a 5.31 rating. I want to say that's probably the highest we've had, actually, now that I think about it. John Cena equals ratings. We got one more other thing to look at. Jimmy Smith contract negotiations. His contract was coming up. We're going to complete the signing there. And by the way, of course, Io Shirai's are still, we have to get to that. We mentioned that on Raw. Jimmy Uso, I think, was the other one whose contract was up. We already re-signed him, so he's back, just as Naomi is. So they're good there. But there you go. That is SmackDown, a terrific show, and I'm really excited about the storylines we got going on SmackDown. Also am on Raw, but I think SmackDown is just, it's hitting a groove right now, even though I know that last SmackDown was just awful. But I think we're on the road to SummerSlam, and I think, as you can tell, we've got some pretty big things set up for SmackDown in particular. But that's not to say that we don't for Raw, because that'll be our next episode. So be sure to subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. And as always, I love the feedback. Keep it coming. Yeah, we're on the road to SummerSlam here. Only, I guess, 6 shows to go now. We've got 3 Raws, 3 SmackDowns, then we'll be at SummerSlam. I would love to get there before WWE does SummerSlam, but I don't think that's going to happen. But we're still going to try to go at a pretty grueling pace here. I'm going to try to maybe upload one every other day to see if we can get there, but I don't want to promise that because I'm not exactly sure. It depends on work schedules and all that good stuff. So that was SmackDown, and on the next episode, it will be the August Week 2 edition of WWE Raw.